Hey, Kim, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. So is this okay to talk for a bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got time now. I don't have to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the beauty of a strike. Just to let you know, I've got this recording, and I'll tell you what this is about. It's because I'm recording on a phone. The quality's not great, but I'm starting this. Basically, it's a series of looking at things that keep me from prison, that keep me from strangling senators and things, hopeful things.
Yeah.
And so I actually had a project in my brain late last year, looking at what I could cite to people as positive things happening. And I made a huge list. It was much bigger than I thought. And I've been looking at and talking to people who are involved with those things. Your strike is not one of them. It came up at me, and it makes me feel great, but it was not on my list because it's obviously I had no idea it was going to take place. But it's wonderful.
It is wonderful.
So let's just, I can edit this. I may not edit it much because I like the rawness of it. But talk to me about some of what's going on. Let me just, actually, I'll tell you what, just to be obnoxious, let me give you an intro, because I was just talking with a man, and we were saying, I gave a reading of my book over a wildcat strike I was involved with. A reading of the title of a book, which is now inaccurate, thank God. It was the longest wildcat strike in U.S. history, which is a week. Now you're going to best it. And they're hard to measure.
We're West Virginia. We try.
I know. Well, I'm from Kentucky and West Virginia. That's where all my relatives are from. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've lost most of my accent from living here in New York City for some years now. But
then tell me you're a local boy.
Oh yeah, well, my grandfather, Papa, was from Wolf County. They all were all miners and oilmen and all that stuff, and I've done some of that. But interestingly, I gave this reading Thursday, and I was telling a fellow just a second ago that I said, I was shocked by how little people know of collective bargaining, unionization, wildcat strike, which is a term I've had to explain in readings over and over, not over and over at each reading, but at each reading I have to explain it. And it's that same feeling strikes me when I read about what's going on with you guys, that it seems like, there's been such a process of mystification and de-education about people's rights over the decades, that when you explain why people are doing what you guys are doing, it's almost like explaining, the secret books of Dr. Strange. So if you could tell me something about what happened. Well, what led up to what, obviously it's a wildcat strike. It's an illegal strike. So how did this get going?
It was mostly surrounding our public insurance, and it was just the changes that they'd made. And I'm not really sure. I guess they had already, it just degraded. And it was already getting bad. And then people found out it was going to get worse, or it just kind of, people were already struggling with the insurance.
Now, the insurance is the public employees insurance agency you got going, right?
Right.
Okay.
And so it happened really kind of surprisingly quick. Everybody was kind of disgruntled and nobody was listening to us. And, then we started protesting to get attention, just around here. And we were, around our schools, we were having walk-ins and then meeting after school on corners, on populated corners and stuff. And then, they suggested the walkout, and we did it, and we haven't been back. It was not at all how any of us expected. And kind of what you were saying, we don't know anymore. We're pretty removed, I think, from, our predecessors. And even in West Virginia, I mean, we're, we are kind of iconic in the labor movement. And, we're proud of it. And, we know that we help change labor laws all over the place, but that doesn't mean people my age are really all that educated in it because it hasn't been a perpetual thing.
Right.
And my mom was a union organizer.
For what union?
She was AFT.
Okay.
She helped bring, she was really one of the people that kind of really started bringing the AFT to West Virginia. When I was a kid, I remember her, Xeroxing tons of stuff,
right.
Doing all the extra work and stuff that I didn't really know about it and exactly all the details of what she was doing.
Right.
But so all of this started happening, and when we walked off, we kind of, thought, okay, well, we'll be off a couple of days, we'll make our point, and they'll, just say, yeah, you're right, we should do this, which was kind of naive, considering our Republican-led government.
Or Democratic-led government, too, it seems. Judging by how badly the people in West Virginia have been treated by the Democrats, over time, too. Those tax cuts, a couple of decades ago that I think led up to this. Kentucky's got the same thing. More and more corporate tax cuts means less and less money. And once there's no money, then there's no money.
Right.
And that's go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. That's the bait and switch,
Yeah. Well, it's like with the mineral rights and the severance taxes on these things. Now coal has been automated, and everybody blames. I actually went to see Don Blankenship's Senate send-off,
right? Just
because I thought it would be. I don't even know what I thought when I went, but it was really kind of sad.
Right.
I mean, it was sad because I looked over at the 20 people that were there to support him.
Yeah.
And his whole spiel was, defending himself, and had, these people saying, oh, he didn't do it, and it was Obama that did it. And it's like you would think that the people in the coal industry would know that automation is what's, put so many people out of jobs. And we don't have and I know that we don't have a whole lot of the right kind of coal anymore, like the quick burn kind and blah, blah, blah. But when I looked over at these guys, that had come and, our society right now, I mean, this manufactured culture war, where they're just striving in every possible way to divide us. And I looked over at these guys, and, they're probably all Republicans, and I looked at them and I was like, they're not my enemy.
Clearly, for the most part, I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, well, I think that we keep thinking that even when we go, town hall meetings, I think have kind of taken on like a sacredness to me.
Right.
Because it's one of the places we get together. People with these polarized views that are getting more and more polarized by the people that benefit from our polarization.
Exactly.
Because they think, if you vote, you have to vote for me because I'm going to save you. And if you don't vote for me, it's Armageddon.
Right.
So, but I looked over at these guys and I was like, these are my tribe.
Well, did you feel that as strongly before the Wildcat, or because to me,
no, this was before.
Okay.
I felt that this was before we went on strike. This was a month ago or something. But I felt that before when I went to a town hall meeting years ago before the ACA with Nick Rahal, and it was the first one I had ever been to at the time, and I was like, okay, everybody here is saying the same thing that they're saying, only they've been convinced through a couple of different dogmas that the only way to get what we all want, which is security, to be able to have health care, and there are slight moral issues or whatever, the ideological issues that are different, but we wanted the same thing. And I was just watching people, so angry about wanting the same thing, and we couldn't get it together.
Yeah.
But,
I've seen that quite a bit. And I asked that about the Wildcat because my experience was when we went out on strike, and we have, cops against us initially, and people were very frightened. And you talk a lot more down home, talking turkey, whatever idiom we want to say it in. But you're very honest with each other, and you're saying, about talking about your fears, about your worries about losing your home or your apartment, or dealing with healthcare costs and things that we all deal with. And basically, our concerns were very, very similar. It's the same way that you're talking about.
It was like an epiphany the first time it happened, and then we've gotten so afraid of each other, and they benefit from that, and we're so afraid that they're going to judge us, and we're going to judge them, or they're the enemy, or whatever. And I just looked at these guys, and I was like, those are, we might be related somehow. I mean, we might literally, be the same tribe.
Well, let me ask this. So you, people probably don't understand some of what's going on. So let me say some things, and you jump in at any point and interrupt me.
Okay.
Jim Justice, creepy governor you got. Creepy name, too. I mean, we all got creepy governors. Kentucky's got Matt Bevin now, who's just outrightly criminal. So you got Jim Justice here, and he, with your Senate, I guess Senate and House, negotiates what goes on with your benefits, because as public workers in Virginia, in West Virginia, you can't actually collectively bargain in a traditional sense. Okay, that's fucked. Straightforwardly, that's awful. But okay, so they go and they basically, your union reps become a form of probably low-paid lobbyists. That's awful. So they went and were negotiating your insurance, your wages, or salaries. I guess you guys are paid salaries as teachers, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a teaching assistant, actually, so.
Okay.
Yeah, but all of us.
So they're negotiating all that. Well, I'm just trying to get the events in order and what's going on, and because there are other things, culture war and such, and overriding issues too that you brought up that are wonderful to discuss. But so they go in and they're negotiating this, and he offered you guys a 1% raise.
Yeah. Well, gosh, what did it start off? It's been such a dizzying thing. I mean, sometimes I can't even keep track of the days. It's been so crazy. But I think what they ended up doing, I don't want you to quote me if I get it wrong, but it was
of course,
like 2 or 3%, the first year, 1 and then 1, and it was different for other public employees and service personnel, how they started off. And then they kind of negotiated it so it was like closer or similar.
Right. And
but people were still saying that's not enough. We can't even keep up with these healthcare costs.
Yeah.
And
skyrocketing is what I understood.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and the low wages. I mean, when you say that, you have to realize that it's not just teachers, and teachers are making much, much less. Thousands of dollars less than they would in some neighboring states. But when you're somebody like me, or a cook or secretary, or people that work at DHHR or whatever, you can make considerably less, sometimes even half. So I guess they were still struggling with that because it's not going to be enough for teachers. It's not going to be enough for people that make less than them.
Right.
And so that's when we really started acting up.
Wonderfully acting up.
Yeah, I have to say, I mean, it has been, after, probably a year and a half. I mean, it's been longer because the deprivation has been here for so long.
Yeah.
And it really has been a sense of just and we're not alone or isolated. This is a national problem of people just getting, just closer and closer to a non-sustainable wage. And,
and people don't realize, if I can interject, because there's a lot to discuss. But let me just say this as people are listening, because I'm really thrilled that you guys are doing this. It's inspirational.
It really is.
And Oklahoma is talking about doing the same thing. I don't know if you called into that. So they're copycats, but all welcome. And I can't tell you how glad I am that I wrote this book, and it's subtitled "The Longest Wildcat Strike in U.S. History," which is hard to measure. I actually did research before I made that claim, because there were other strikes, and of course, before the late 30s, all strikes were illegal. So it's hard to say, but I pitched it as close to my understanding of the truth as possible. And the fact that someone brought up, in fact, to me, that if you guys continued, it would be inaccurate. And I'm overjoyed that it's inaccurate. I hope there are millions more coming. But just to go back onto some of this. So I was invited to a dinner with a very famous physicist, and I went to a party and had some drunken conversation, and then ended up getting invited to this dinner because of my drunken conversation. And so it's these other artists, this physicist, some wonderful people. It's here in New York City, and it's private. It was, I guess, 6 to 7 people. And people are getting back from London, getting back from Dubai, getting back from Zurich, wherever they've gone. And I had just gone down to Whitesburg. And I'm actually, it's a long-range plan, but thinking of putting a business down on Main Street in Whitesburg. And my folks, everybody comes from that little strip of land from basically West Virginia down to the top of Tennessee there. All my relations, people say. And so I went down there with my son, and I was looking at some places to put a business, and we did a bunch of canoeing and horse riding and, all this stuff you do. So I came back here, which has been home for some years now, and people were talking about their travels. And this lady looked at me and she said, "You just did some traveling yourself." And I said, "Yeah, I went back to Kentucky and, hung out with my son and was doing some research, my entrepreneurial research." And the gentleman who was a physicist asked me, he said, "What's it like down there?" And I said, "Well, it's one of the poorest counties in the country." And I said, "It's surrounded by Letcher County, that is. It's surrounded by about 6 of the other poorest top 10 counties."
Yeah, right.
And I realized, and this is in any way am I pointing fingers at them, they were a wonderful group of people. But most of the cultured, I put that in quotes because I ride a weird kind of outlier life from that, but the cultured, moneyed classes don't know how people are living. And I tried not to even discuss it. When he asked me he said, "Well, what does that entail?" I said, "Well, a lot of meth, a lot of opioid, a lot of pills, a lot of despair, and things like that, a lot of putting a bullet in your head." And it silenced people, and I felt bad because we were having such a good time. But I realized, you can't ask a question like that, what's it like if you're sawing off your leg with no anesthetic? Why ask that?
Right.
But they don't get it. And, I tend to still, and less and less these days, but spend time in West Virginia, spend time in Kentucky, spend time in Tennessee. And I'm still in touch with a lot of people there, and I see them on social media against my friends here going in between Paris and Hong Kong and such. And then folks down there finally getting a job welding for 6 weeks at this plant, and then they're not paying you. And then, it's the contrast is mind-boggling.
Right.
So people don't get it.
I'm sure it is.
Go ahead.
It makes you, well, we wonder, because I'm really surprised at how little people know about this. Now, granted, we have a couple of private groups where I get a lot of my information. One's the West Virginia, the whole state's United site or Facebook page, and then the other one's my county.
Right.
But I'm really surprised even my mom, who, like I said, was a labor organizer, she's wintering in Georgia, and, I'm having to tell her a whole lot. And so, this isn't going to be popular, and we've been pretty critical of some of our news sources
What news sources? Well, who's covering it? Because I saw. Let me lead into this and give you this BS here. But I saw where someone had cited an article that showed that MSNBC, which is considered progressive among corporate anti-progressive news, had said nothing, absolutely zero about it. So, what news sources are you getting, and so forth?
Well, what was interesting is the night that, it was Tuesday night, I guess. And that's when Jim Justice came out and said, we're gonna give you, $5 or a 5%.
Yeah, that was Thursday night, right?
Yeah, was it Thursday night or Tuesday night?
I don't. I read the lay of the time into this, but it's jumbled in my head as well.
I'm telling you, it's been crazy. But what was interesting about that day is we went to the Capitol, and we did our thing, and we hollered outside of the doors en masse and chanted and raised hell, and then we got a message saying that NBC News was coming, and so we were like texting people and saying, "Hey, come back," right? Because at this time it was the afternoon, and there were only a few hundred people there. And, like my friends were putting groceries in their car and got the text and just drove back to Charleston. And so there were a huge number of people there. And then, NBC was there, but my friends said that it never really, they said it was going to be their lead story. And then it ended up not being. I didn't really follow through with that, but that's what people told me. Right. Like I didn't try to watch it. But I don't know, it's just other things where I think that some of the news sources have, ignored it or tried to downplay it.
Well, I know Fox News demonized it.
Oh, well,
I saw it. Well, of course, but I'm just saying this is what people are hearing. They said that, greedy teachers have rejected the governor's offer even when he was giving them a pay raise.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
Well, that night was interesting. The reason that was interesting too, I don't like keep hopping from subject to subject.
Yeah, that's fine.
There were other things that, like in local news, like one time, like last week we saw that a local news source had reported something, and you got 5,000 people chanting in unison, and somehow they found the one person
right,
who did not agree with us and was trying to say that we were divided. Right. And everybody keeps saying, we are not divided. This is propaganda. Do not listen to this. They're trying to sow seeds of doubt. Yeah. And but what happened that Tuesday night was just, I'm fairly certain it's Tuesday, but I might be wrong. Everybody came back, and to me, it almost felt like, oh my gosh, NBC's here. Right. I'm going to throw them a bone. It's like I'm going to throw these employees a bone now. And I don't even understand how it all works. If he really thought that he could do it, and like with an executive order or whatever, which has been discussed, or he knew that once it got to Senate, they were going to give us hell. So, but it was just a weird night. It was just really, really weird. And the instant that
now back up for a second, because of other people are listening. I know what you're saying, but let's clarify that some. So you're talking about when Jim Justice offered the 5% raise and said, here you go, and it passed through the House, and then the Senate said, to hell with you.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Who would know that's going to happen?
Yeah, and it was just really weird because, once again, we are not used to this. Yeah. And so all the ins and outs of it. And I've got friends that work at the Capitol and are lobbyists, and they're just so jaded, you can imagine. But it was just a really weird night. We felt like it was almost like for the national news or something, because then they turn around and say, oh, they're rejecting this great offer, because immediately, and this is what a lot of people didn't know about or see, and I was taking video of it, as soon as he said that, and it was the unions who had organized that, the people outside were immediately saying, back to the table. They wanted assurances, and they wanted to make sure that they were going to address PEIA. And see, that's been a whole other thing. They're also saying that it, if the teachers are going after this raise instead of fixing PEIA, that's a way of driving a wedge between school employees and the other public employees who will also benefit, and the retirees who will also benefit from having PEIA fixed. Right. So they just weren't for it. As soon as they said it, the whole crowd was just saying, back to the table, back to the table. And so then, the news gets it and thinks, oh, yay, we're all going back to school. And then Jim Justice says something about, go ahead and take Wednesday off. It's a cool-off day, whatever that is. Whatever. And then it wasn't a cool-off day. Right. It was just, we're just not going back. And then, when it went to the House, it passed all but one senator. All but one representative passed it. And then when it went to Senate, they just weren't having it. Right. So, and then, do you know what happened when they came back with the... No, tell me. Okay. So then they went on, and, a big part of their agenda this week was passing co-tenancy. Right. And you know what that is, right? No, you do not. Oh, it's crooked as a dog's hind leg. It's basically the gas industry can come into an area and say, I don't want this happening on my land, but 75% of the people in my area do. Then I have no rights. Wait. They're going to do it anyway. So if the gas industry comes into an area and says they don't want something being... like digging, fracking. Right. So if they say, if the gas industry says, I don't want this. No, if the landowners say, I don't want this. Right. If the landowners say they don't, the gas industry says they do, then what? If 75% of the landowners in that area say yes, the other 25% don't have a choice. Wow. So they can override your individual rights with a weighted decision in corporate favor. What about that? That's I just interviewed this guy. He's running in the 11th district in Texas, and if I have this story right, I've gone over it a couple of times. I'm pretty sure this is correct. The occupants of the 11th district voted not to have fracking. Basically to protect their water and everything with that. And he pushed through a bill afterwards, post facto, saying that you actually can't vote on that. Boy, it sounds like same kind of politics are going on in Texas. See, this is, there's so many issues to discuss on this, but let me just, I read about the teachers organizing food distribution for the students. Oh, yeah. Because it's at least 15% of the families in West Virginia, they say, are dealing with food scare, or what? They're hungry, they're starving. Yeah. In the words of real people. So, so teachers are organizing a food distribution. Have you been part of that? Yeah, our school started doing it as soon as we heard there was going to be a walkout. Nice. And we were getting it all together, and churches are doing it, and the county is doing it. I think it's the same in the other counties also. They're providing food. Right. The school boards they have all these little satellite places where people can pick up food. So they've been doing that the whole time. That's really nice. And I heard of all people, or all groups, I should say, Sam's Club and Little Caesars or something were donating pizzas or something like that. I hadn't heard that. Oh, I bet. Well, who's donating the food then? Well, the county's providing them. Okay. The teachers and parents of my school donated the initial ones that we sent home before we walked out. Okay. And so I think it's a bunch of different people. Well, I wonder, because that might be corporate propaganda, because it was in an article that I read, and they specifically noted that those two assholes, Sam's Club, which is attached to the Walton family, and little. Okay, well, that's probably, if it's true, it's a very minor. Well, but we also have, a bunch of people like supporting the teachers too. So I don't know. That's like pizzas reminds me of people are, dropping food off at the demonstration sites and stuff.
That happened to us a lot. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I saw something that was really, really cool. I think it was, I don't want to say which county it was because I might be wrong, but these people are just like standing out demonstrating and stuff, and a pizza delivery guy pulls up with pizzas and says, "This is from Wisconsin." Somebody from Wisconsin had just said, "Okay, send some pizzas to the people in your town that they're out there protesting." And we've gotten incredible support. It's ridiculous. Verbal videos, the NEA had a big meeting, and those people got behind us. It's wild.
Well, see, this is so good because really this is what to combat despair caused by everything right now.
Yeah.
I've been putting, I put this idea together for this broadcast, podcast, whatever, and part of it is I don't have a lead for it yet. How people have that little intro, but part of the intro will mention what I'm looking for is stuff like you guys walking out with your own gumption, on your own, and people helping you out. That's what the IWW used to call, or still calls, the seed of the new society forming in the shell of the old, and it's something really good taking place in a rotten, fucked up system, and that happened to us. It was spontaneous. Just people immediately, they're coming out bringing sandwiches, they're bringing beer, they're asking us if we need things. And, it was wonderful. People trying to make you comfortable, people knowing that you don't have a paycheck coming in, and people wondering, if you were being harassed, all that kind of support. And the fact that in a situation in which, you're jeopardizing your livelihood, at least in the immediate, you're concerned about students eating, is really beautiful.
It is. And I think that's the whole point of this to me is we are just conditioned to think that somebody is going to be the big, powerful hero.
Right.
And save us all and fix everything. And that's not, I don't think that's going to be how this is going to work. I think that it's going to be little people, regular people, doing what they can. And the parents, like our parents have been so cool to us because, we feel guilty.
Right.
We feel guilty because some of them, you think of the single parents that don't have child care or money for child care. And actually there are places popping up around here that are offering, Marshall University I saw is offering camps during this time. And churches and stuff are offering child care. But, we feel really bad. And it's wonderful, some of the support we've gotten from our parents, because that's what I just feel so bad about.
Right.
And one of my parents, first of all, one of my parents was at the children. The young people had a rally. I don't know if you saw that. The one that, I guess that was Thursday, was the young people's, Friday, was the young people's rally. Kids organized that. And, there were thousands of people there. And we marched around the Capitol. The kids are the ones that spoke in support of their teachers. It was beautiful.
Right.
And one of my parents was there with her family that I saw. There were also other parents from our county that I knew were there. But one of my parents posted something on Facebook and said, I love my school. My kids got great teachers. And the best lesson that they've learned so far this year is to stand up for your rights.
Yeah.
And so that is beautiful.
That's amazing. And I really, in looking at, like I said, last year, after the shithead got selected president, not that Clinton would have been any charming, different alternative for the most part.
It'd be a lot less crazy.
Yeah, it'd feel crazy. So, you get the tummy rub, but at the same time, you'd still have a lot of these awful policies. Maybe not all. But skipping past that, despair settled here in New York City. And I drank a lot of beer and talked with a lot of people, and it was, and really that's not productive. And that's where the idea for this came from. But what I'm noticing is not only are so many good things starting to happen, but they have to happen. Like, we're really in a crisis time, obviously, with so many things. And so, when you tell me about those daycares popping up, what comes to mind is a strike like in Paterson, New Jersey. I don't know if you are acquainted with the textile workers strike that happened, I think it was 1913.
Yeah, that was Jen.
Yeah, it was 2-year strike. Mm-hmm. And kids...
Wow, I didn't realize it was that long. 2
years without money. So kids were taken up by families in the surrounding towns, cities, and that's this area here in the Northeast. Mm-hmm. So that's a hell of a thing to happen. I remember talking with my papa was involved, with a lot of organizing and met a lot of communist organizers. I don't like these terms because now everything's been demonized, but I completely agree with them. I'll state that for the record, because anything that is affecting us all should be under everybody's decision making and should be owned by us all, not our toothbrush, but definitely agriculture and energy and things like that. So, he met a lot of these people, and these people really sacrificed. I know that there's a really good book called Hillbilly Women about women in West Virginia and Kentucky and in northern Tennessee too. It talked about Florence Reese, and when she wrote "Which Side Are You On?" She was young, and she's in I think Harlan, and she said one man after another would come to the back door of their little shack, and they would try and help him because his back had been turned to hamburger, because the company thugs would grab him. He was a striker, mine striker, and they would beat him and whip him with some kind of cat o' nine tails to the point where he was shredded. And some of these guys, like she said, they're gone. You can't really help them. They can wander off, but they're not going to live that much longer. And they were glad. They were very happy to sacrifice. So, when I think of us with what we've attained through those sacrifices, and then, thinking back, like just what you're saying now with people stepping up, that's a powerful move.
It is. I mean, we've just been every day, and like I said, when I guess people outside of the situation don't see all these little details. They don't see people from Nigeria sending us pictures saying 55 strong. They don't see people from California and people from, lots and lots of states and Australia and all of these places sending us these things because, they understand.
Yeah. And how can you get that out to people?
I don't know, because I've talked about it a little bit on my Facebook page, but I don't know if I don't know to what extent the people that organize that page really want everything moved out. Like, they posted the site for the Oklahoma strike that's coming up. And, I just kind of sent them a message and said, good luck, and we're rooting for you and stuff. But I don't know. Hopefully somebody is writing about this. I know a number of people are putting together collections of the signs and things like that. This would be a fantastic book because it's been remarkable.
Yeah.
The whole trajectory of it.
Well, yeah. And I am, I've got this book out, which I mentioned, and I'm working on a book of fiction, but I'm pecking away. I didn't even mean to head this direction, but when I crafted this list, which was kind of a stop despairing, don't shoot a senator list that I put together for my own brain and heart, I realized there's a book there. And some of what you're telling me, I want to put in there. I've been talking and contacting different candidates, and the candidates won't go in there because it's very topical, and very, not topical so much, but it's very time sensitive. But what you're doing is not time sensitive, and it echoes so much what happened with us, which actually, looking back on it, even though it was 800 people and it was a big industry and all the rest of this, you've got thousands and thousands. I think every one of the 55 counties in all of West Virginia are on strike. There are no schools open. So this is huge, and it's overwhelming. And when I couldn't sleep when we had the wildcat, and I set up an email address just to get information, and so people would use that email address when they posted, and I started getting emails from everywhere. From Damascus, emails from Santiago, emails from Winnipeg, all over the place. People are emailing saying, hell yeah, stay strong, give it to them. And one guy, sorry, I'm still got a little residue of this New York flu that went around last month. The deal is that one guy, he had been, he's a union organizer, but he had spent time in jail because he burned down a recruiting office during the Vietnam War. He found out about it and mailed me money, to help with my family during the Wildcat. I mean, it was amazing. And I couldn't sleep, and I couldn't figure out how to get that information out to people. And this is 2001, so it's the social media and things didn't really exist.
Right.
But a guy in a pickup truck, I was talking with him, his buddy had a megaphone, and in this kind of bleary, no sleep for, 30 hours state, I got a pile of these emails I'd printed, and we drove around to where people were camped out along the 1 1/8 in front of the shipyard, and I read them through the megaphone.
Oh.
But it was overwhelming because people, a lot of the people coming from hillbillies, as I do, I understand, when I grew up in rural Kentucky, the rest of the world seemed like an illusion. And, working in the shipyard all the time and just kind of being ground down, people had no idea why somebody in Moscow or London would give a damn about them. And that was really, it stunned people.
Yeah, and it makes me cry. It's like whenever stuff happens, like bad stuff, a disaster or something horrible, what always moves me is the outpouring of love and support. And it's the best of us. It's the best of us. I mean, we can be selfish and afraid of each other and defensive and have all these walls. But that's what we talk about in West Virginia. That's what we've been talking about. We know how to do that. We have only ourselves to depend on a lot of times. We don't have a lot of money, and our state's never had a lot of money, and what money was here, was in the pockets of a few.
Yeah.
And
as it still is.
It hasn't changed. So if there's a flood or a natural disaster, people just get in their cars and they go. It's like with the flooding that happened.
Buffalo Creek, for instance.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, that's what we do, and it's bipartisan. Right. And that's what is, I think, so beautiful about what's going on right now. Right. Like I said, I'm just so horrified and exhausted by people demonizing each other. And we've got Mountain Party, independents, Republicans, and Democrats all involved in this strike.
Right.
We have superintendents who are Republican and Democrat, who are all 55 of them are standing up for us.
Right.
Our county superintendents. They have been stunning. But to me, there's something profound about that.
Well, if I can share with you, go ahead. No, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say, like when we go to the Capitol, there's not a Republican section. There's a Democratic section. We're not divided by that, and that's countercultural. Yes,
and this is something I wonder about, and I posed this to this candidate, Alec Johnson, in Texas. To me, there's a hypnosis going on where you have, but you said bipartisan. There's not really much meaning to these parties at all, these two parties. They both work for pretty much the same corporate interests. They get funded by the same people, and it ain't you and me. So it's an illusion already to think that we're divided in that sense. Some of us may be homophobic, some may not, whatever. Or misogynistic, or pick your poison. Right. But we're all to some extent damaged, and we have these interests, very basic survival interests, among other things. But what I see is, as the pressure increases from environmental chaos and from income inequality and from healthcare problems and all of this like cataclysm that we've invested in by not dealing with the social poison, political poison we have, it to me seems like it's almost the beginning of a movement beyond Republican, Democrat. as I said, I don't like to use terms, so I don't, beyond progressive, beyond anything, it's a very basic movement to restore some decency and sanity. When I was looking through these candidates, I was looking at people who are dealing with very, very straightforward problems. And I realized, like, if you look at the websites of these candidates, they're echoing each other. So I'm almost seeing, I hate to use this kind of grandiosity, but a popular front in that sense evolving. From, in the 30s, when that happened, it was just people being so broke and despairing that they moved forward. And that's what I think is happening now.
I think that's why this is so, inspirational and tantalizing. It's like, wow, you're doing what? Your whole state? And it's interesting to me that we're teachers. It's not just for us. We're educators. I feel like this is part of an extension of us being educators.
Clearly.
And I really think that the income, disparaging, injustice and economic situation that's just gotten worse and worse and worse for so many people, they're just crying out.
Right.
And, I like that we are lacking hope. I like that you're doing this podcast and book and stuff on things to give hope, because without hope, we don't move. We don't progress. We just languish. And we have to be, filled with light, and we have to inspire each other and excite each other and show people doing good things and loving each other. It's like, even like on my Facebook page, I've fallen into great turmoil because of all this the past year.
Right.
But before that, I would really deliberately try to show these supposed opposing forces, people that you see as enemies, or people that you see that we're told are enemies, and that the sense of enemy is inflated for news stories or whatever people's motivation is, and try to show them loving each other. It's just that simple, and taking care of each other and supporting each other. It's like it's like an alien concept,
right?
And I love that you're doing that. That you're showing people the positive, and you're giving people hope. We need to give each other hope right now.
No, that's definite, and I'm not actually doing it out of magnanimity. At least mainly, I'm doing it, like I said. There was so much despair in 2017, and I pretty quickly clued into the clown show, where you have horrible things going on, and you have this fool acting up, and people scream, but I wasn't joking, and a lot of people just sat in bars and grieved about the situation, and a lot didn't. A lot just grieved, which is horrible. So when I made that list, and it's huge. There's a lot going on that's good, and I'm trying to focus on that and bring some of it to light, just so that other people can see not only not to despair, but how to get involved with things. Can, like you said about being educated, people don't understand. I told this to this group of people Thursday when I read from my book and talked at Lehman College, and they were asking questions about unions, and I realized at some point not only they've been de-educated so hard about this that I stepped back and I said, you realize the point ultimately about a union is not simply to get better pay or better working conditions. And so ultimately it was a way of practicing standing beside one another so that you are producing a different kind of world, and a world in which people don't routinely screw each other over. And I could see in their faces this was completely alien. But saying something like that in 1920 would have been passé. People understood that. That's what a union was for. In fact, an older gentleman who mentioned something during the talk I gave was talking about right to work and contracts and working without a contract. And I said, there was a debate that we lost. Not only that debate, we lost most debates of substance, but there was a debate about contracts because at one point it was understood that, like I said, a union was basically a stepping stone for a social political revolution, a global revolution. And so if you have a contract, you get complacent. You don't want a contract. You want to know when you go to work each day that if the person beside you is being screwed over, you're going to stop work. You're going to stand up for them. And that makes a very volatile situation. But the situation's volatile already. You just don't acknowledge it, and you don't deal with it.
I'm trying to just get along.
Let me ask this. What do you, this is Sunday, this is March 4th. Tomorrow, obviously, is Monday, March 5th. What do you see happening? I'm not asking for prophecy, just, you guys.
Gosh, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I mean, as soon as, what happened last night, they were there forever, till really late at night. And a lot of our, like I said, our county superintendents were there. And, they all showed up yesterday, I believe, most, if not all. And I know that a few local ones close to me were still there at 10 at night. And so what happened was they changed it. The Senate came back and passed their own bill that made it 4% instead of 5%.
Right.
Yeah. Did you hear that?
Yeah. No, I did not hear that. I was laughing at you saying that it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And today I was like, well, that's kind of numerically poetic that the 1% are haggling the
over 1%
class people over 1%.
Yeah.
So that was kind of.
It's like a weird sucker punch going out the door.
Yeah, it is. I believe it's about control.
Yeah.
We have forced them to do something they didn't want to do. We have.
Yeah.
We have made their lives very uncomfortable for a couple of weeks, and they don't like being pushed around. They're used to being able to do whatever they want with very little resistance, and definitely not so much civil disobedience. Yeah. And so they're mad, and they are. And if they don't, I see. Well, then what happened was, let me not get too distracted with my opinions of it.
Yeah, no, you can talk about whatever. Go ahead.
But then they sent it back, and the House rejected it. So once the Senate passed it to make it 4%, the House rejected that. So good for them. They're trying to do the right thing, which is, at least we got some of these guys on our side. But we've got quite a few senators who are just fantastic, and they're coming out every day and talking to us, and we're getting videos through these sources of them saying, look, they're going to try to divide you. They're going to try to pit you against the other public employees. I mean, these are our senators telling us this.
Right.
And educating us on the process. And so I think that if anything has come out of this past year, obviously, is everybody is getting more educated about how the political process works. And this has been quite an education for us.
Right.
So, I mean, every day it's interesting to watch the Department of Education map go red, one county at a time, every day.
Right.
It starts off, nobody's going to commit. They're hoping for the best. They want to get back to school. Everybody misses their kids. We don't want to be a hardship. But every day that map starts going red, 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 red until the whole state's red.
This is so hopeful to me for this reason specifically. And I'll say this on the air, but this is a taxi cab conversation in 90% of the taxi cabs throughout the first half of 2017 here. It's a bar conversation. And the conversation is, what are you going to do? Because with the surveillance society, with anti-protest laws they've tried to push, about the pipelines and things, with the harsh sentencing, with the right to work, with this, what's the name of that decision they're pushing through the Supreme Court now, anti-union legislation. I've lost, I'll remember it. But basically unions can compete is what they're saying. And they think that's going to further, put the final nail in the coffin of unionism. With all of that, what options do you have? Because even with the gerrymandering and voter suppression and what looks clearly like electoral misdeeds, you can't even vote people out or good people in. That leaves one option. and that option will get you in jail and cause social chaos. And what's interesting is, especially my own ties to West Virginia, and you being in West Virginia has a history of both options of real strength. One, the mine wars, Blair Mountain, and all the rest of that. And the other, I remember hearing a recording, obviously, of someone mimicking him. But Big Bill Haywood of the IWW said, we intend to commit real violence against the capitalist. We intend not to work. It's the worst form of violence. And what I've asked people, and I ask it very bluntly, I'm not going to ask you because you actually made a choice here, a wonderful choice. But if you're stuck with, arming yourself and taking out a senator or nothing, or just caving into this nightmare of horrible policies being weighed down on you, the other option is to find a way to stop the system, which is what Haywood was saying. Like, really, if you shoot a senator in the head, they'll put another senator in. Their loyalty is to their money and their assets, to capital.
Well, that's how you get them. That's
the point. So if you stop profit and assets, if you damage that, which is what Haywood was saying, if you stop working, he said, more than a weapon, if I just put my hands in my pocket and don't work, that's where the real violence lies for them being, frankly, the rulers of this situation at the moment. So the fact you guys are actually doing that and educating people about that, to me, is spectacular. When we had the wildcat, people were so angry at the union. And we had another union. We were actually elements of the IWW going through, and we had the Teamsters, which was screwing us over. Of course, it's Kentucky, and you know the culture, and everybody's armed. And people were talking, in these kind of machismo fantasy ways about what we could do. And gladly, luckily, we came to our senses and we were saying, bring nothing. And the fact that we brought nothing, we got on this makeshift picket line and we didn't work, was worse than any form of physical violence we could have inflicted on anyone, because that drove them crazy. The fact that the Senate is reacting, like I said, what seems to be just a sucker punch, shows a real anger. The Senate is usually status quo enforcers. And the fact that they are really angry at you is a lot better than one of the only other options at this time would be. And this option is the one that actually makes positive change. So the fact you guys are doing it and inspiring others, like what appears to be a coming wave out of Oklahoma, is just awesome. I really can't say enough good stuff about it. I didn't expect this, and the fact, like I said, the fact that as people talk and they're like, what do we do? Well, there's one option only, and which does appear to be true for most people. And that's one reason I carved out a list of just what good things are happening. And then here comes, you guys doing this wonderful thing, which just really, like I said, touches my heart too. Really wonderful.
It's incredibly beautiful. I mean, you just, if you don't see it, I really hope somebody does come up with a fantastic overview of it. But I think that the reason that it works is because it's done in love and it's done in support. And without it, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Because people are not.
It's solidarity.
They're tired of the violence. They're tired of the division. Everybody is so sick and tired of conflict.
Right.
And I think that's the reason we have so much support. I mean, like you said, we're providing food for the kids. We're
that's really an inspiring move already. Just to read that was so wonderful.
We love our kids.
Yeah. Well, it shows where your concern is.
Yeah, and we want this world to be better for them, not just our kids, our personal kids, but for all kids. We don't want them. I mean, there's so much deprivation already here, and what you can't comprehend, I think, unless you work in a school,
right,
in a place that is so overrun by poverty and opioid addiction.
Yeah,
I don't know if you know that.
I know
a lot about what's going on, particularly in Huntington. I mean, a movie was up for an Oscar about Huntington, where I live. called Heroine, and it was about the EMS and firefighters and the rescue people that just their whole lives spent going out and rescuing people who have overdosed.
Yeah.
And what we see in the schools is absolutely heartrending. It's terrible. It's tragic. We've got, incarcerated parents, dead parents. We've got kids being raised by, relatives they barely know, or being, shuffled from this relative to that relative. And, they have so much trauma, and that breaks our hearts. I mean, we don't just teach these kids,
Right.
We bond with them, we love them, and we take on that suffering. So
Right.
teaching isn't what people think it is anymore. There's so much pain out there, and so much of society in certain areas, at least I can just speak for my area, is breaking down.
I was going to say that, I've got a book, a second book. It's a book of fiction, and it's about 4 people in 2005 in Kentucky whose lives are just crumbling. And interestingly, if you pull back, especially me still having a lot of contact with that area, you really see the society falling to pieces. You don't see it here at all. And here, you got a lot of wealthy people, and a lot of that wealth, these wealthy folks, they could, some money could fall out of their pocket and finance you for a year.
Right.
But down there's nothing, and it's despair, and that opioid problem. I don't know I speak out of ignorance because I don't know this movie, but that having that enter into this fictional work, I did more research, and more information is coming out about the collaboration between our Senate, the federal Senate, and Big Pharma, and actually about 3 different companies that really wanted to make a profit, I should say a killing, off moving those drugs into people's hands. And maybe it's Huntington, in fact, but I know there is a town in West Virginia where they've pumped, I forgot how many millions of dollars worth of opioids into the town.
Yeah.
It may be Huntington.
There are a number of different counties that happens in, and enough for every man, woman, and child to have, 1,000 pills or something of these absolutely devastating narcotics.
I saw a lot of that, I for a while I'm mainly a painter, and I write philosophy and silly books, but I also tattoo, and I tattooed on motorcycle festivals. And you get people coming at the end of the festival that have been camping out, that have been, on all types of things. And you just see the damage done to people, hooked on to this mess. I haven't done that in 10 years, 13 years. And, but being in Kentucky and being at tattoo shops, you have people wander in that are really, really not only addicted, but really messed up by that. And it's painful. And I still go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just see a lot of people on social media commenting, from down there on that stuff.
Yeah, well, it's devastating. It's absolutely devastating. I have one of my friends is a firefighter, and he's just, talking about how traumatized the firefighters are coming into these situations and seeing these kids, and they're, wandering around the house, and their parents are ODing while they're driving, and it's really sad stuff. And it's been devastating. My friend who is from here lives abroad, and he came back and stayed for about a month, and he was like, it's like The Walking Dead. Yeah,
I've had people describe being there and in Kentucky the same way. They're really horrible. I used a scene of I was tattooing at a place in southern Kentucky, south of Lexington, and a guy told me a story of his buddy had gotten back from Iraq, and he was messed up. He had been hurt, and his soul had been hurt, and he was living out. I had some land, a little shack on this land, and this guy who was telling me the story went out to the little shack late at night, and the man's wife and his baby are on the couch, and she's bleeding from her head. It turned out he had pistol whipped her, and he was out in the woods with an AR-15 and shooting down federal agents that, of course, didn't exist. But he came in and told this guy's relating this to me. He said, are you one of them? Or are you against them? And he said, well, I'm with you.
You You've got the gun.
Yeah, right. You got the Armalite.
On your side.
He gave him a weapon, and they went and they shot, I guess, a bunch of plants out in the woods until the guy passed out. What a horrible thing. You know, just an awful, awful story. I've seen that all over Kentucky, though, and I have, you know, I've been at parties, and you see, you know, I've seen people get a handful, like 10 of whatever, and pop them. Not them one, but pop the handful. You know, and it's shocking. I mean, it really damages your body, and you know, those things, they're so addictive to people that using them for a day or two will get you addicted. So, and they're pumping those in for cash on our healthcare system.
Yeah,
it's really awful. Well, so let me ask you this, because I know we talked for a while, and I probably won't even edit this. I'll probably put it up raw like this with a lead in, because it's a good conversation, Kim. I really appreciate it. But go ahead.
No, I said you're welcome.
Yeah, I really do, because I can't. I'm not trying to gush about it, but I am some, because I'm really inspired by this. And like I said, I wasn't trying to, you know, machismo talk people's reaction to the gut reaction to the Trump administration and voter suppression and things. But I was really hoping something like this would begin, because so many people were locked into this despair of, do I, you know, take this kind of crazy action, or do I just leave the country? Do I cave in? And what do you do? Go catatonic? Something like this is not only inspiring and strong, but it leads to better things. And to see that is wonderful. And now, you know, I almost could have predicted that somebody, and now it's not a body, but teachers in Oklahoma would see this and say, yeah, screw them too, you know, about their situation. So that's really wonderful. Let me ask you a favor. If it's Sunday night, let's see what happens this week. And I'm really rooting for you guys. It seems like you really there's a lot of strength there, and you haven't taken the bait. You know, I saw, as you mentioned, I saw a couple of articles where they found some asshole who says, you know, I'm not sure. They always find, you know, Uncle Frank who doesn't know what's going on, and they feature him because he's in the interest of the owners of the papers or news outlets. Yeah. But let's see what happens this week, and if I can, I may just stick it into a little other segment later on. But if I could just call you and say, hey, and hopefully, hey, congratulations, and what do you think of Oklahoma? You know?
I hope you say that tomorrow.
That would be great. Yeah, I know you don't want to do without pay, but
well, we've been totally supportive so far. They're, you know, talking about just adding days and stuff like that, and it might come to a point where they're going to put forth, you know, enough effort to try to you know, pressure us more. But we've just our local our county superintendents are just unbelievable.
Let me ask.
I can't even believe it, how wonderful they are.
Well, you know, they set up at the end of the week, first week of our Wildcat, which ended up being 1 week. They set up a fund where people were going to donate. They put it in the paper for us because obviously, you know, we've been out a week and it was going to continue, it looked like. Is there anyone talking about doing that for you guys?
I saw something on one of those sites that somebody started a GoFundMe.
Okay.
But I don't. I really don't. You'd have to look. I guess maybe you can find things like that by topic, can't you, on GoFundMe?
Okay.
I don't know if you need.
I'll look that up
or something, but
I'll look and see what I can find.
Well, hopefully we won't need it, and we can. You know.
No, and I'm hoping for the best. But at the same time, just to kind of wrap it all up on that, you know, I read about when I was thinking of these things, like how if you want to strike for 2 years and you got no pay, there's no way to survive, you know, given the horizon imaginatively we have now. You just cave in. But you did. So other things were going on, not only people helping with your children, but, there were mutual aid societies coming from even the 19th century had a lot of those where, all the folks who work and make bricks or all the folks who work over here in this forge, they pool their money so that when something untoward happens, someone gets hurt or you go on strike, there's a fund. And that fund can't be touched, by other powers, the state, this big business, of course. And
right.
we've been so de-educated as to our own options and our imagination, what can happen. We may need to be rethinking that.
Well, we had a really good conversation with, we've had some United Mine Workers come down and hang out with us here and there, and we had a really good conversation with one guy, and he was talking about that too. Said after so much strife and trouble that they'd had for so many years, they had a strike fund, because he was asking, you guys have a strike fund? And I was like, at that point, I was like, no, I haven't heard of anything.
Right.
But he said they just saved it up and saved it up and saved it up to where it was huge.
Yeah.
Like they had tons of money because it was so far in between, troubled times or whatever. But, so hopefully that won't be necessary.
I hope so. No, I'm thinking outward and forward on this, not just with you guys, but, as you move into the future, what if Nebraska? What if Tennessee? Not just teachers, but what if all the sanitation workers? What if all the truckers? I mean, what if people across Alabama decide they're not going to pay their credit cards for 3 months? That's more violence than an army of guys with AKs or whatever fantasy you want to have. Not paying your credit cards for 3 months is the ultimate violence to the system at the time. So for you guys to say we're not going to work is the first beautiful step toward, really addressing grabbing, I hope you don't take offense, but grabbing them by the short hairs, as the old guys used to say. It's a powerful move. So, Kim, thanks so much. I'll let you get to sleep, even though you don't have to get up to go to work. And
I got to get up and go to the Capitol.
Yeah, exactly. You have duties. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was a wonderful talk.
Yeah, thanks.
All right.
Nice talking to you.
All right, you too, ma'am. You have a good night.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye.